Yo. Everyone knows Japanese curry, right? It's one of the most popular dishes in Japan, and it's made its way all around the world. But have you heard of its rival? Hayashi rice, or Hayashi rice, is this beef stew and beef gravy that's sort of similar to curry, but different. It's made with beef, with onions, and along with curry, it's a childhood favorite amongst Japanese people. I think more people should know about it. Whoa. If you're tired of making Japanese curry every week, this could be an alternative for you. And this is how you make it. For the ingredients, we're starting off with the Hayashi blocks. These are kind of the same thing as the curry blocks, just Hayashi form. 2 cloves of garlic, 1 medium onion, about a ½ pound of thinly sliced beef. I picked this one because it's got some decent marbling. About 150 grams of white mushrooms, about 200 milliliters of red wine, a couple dashes of soy sauce. To finish up, a couple tablespoons of butter. This is unsalted. We're gonna start by chopping this onion. We're gonna go lengthwise, drop the ends, and get the skin off. Now for this dish, the onion is one of the stars, one of the main characters. So I don't want to slice them too thin for them to just kind of disintegrate and dissolve in the Hayashi. I want them to remain, which is why we're gonna cut them a little bit thicker, maybe about like 7 to 8 millimeters. Okay, let's set these off to the side. Then let's get the mushrooms chopped. My mom used to make us Hayashi rice for dinner, and I remember being a kid, whenever it was Hayashi night or curry night, I used to get so excited because it was Western food, and it was, you know, a deviation from the Japanese food that I would be eating pretty much every single day. You know, and yes, this is still Japanese food, but it's like a westernized version, right? Also called yoshoku. But now, looking back on it, I kind of wish I, you know, appreciated the Japanese food a little bit more now that I'm cooking for myself and my mom doesn't cook for me. And I wish I paid more attention to the Japanese dishes that my mom made, because she has all these recipes and I'm trying to learn how to cook Japanese food again, and I'm going off of, you know, recipes that I find online. And I wish, you know, I paid more attention to her recipes and cooked the way that she did, because she's got all the knowledge. And we're gonna chop the garlic too. And I wish I appreciated the Japanese food more. I didn't know how good I had it. It's funny how tastes change as you get older, right? But yeah, this dish is something I've been eating for my entire life. And I think it should be shared with others because, I mean, obviously number 1, it's good. And then number 2, it's super simple to make. Okay, prep is done. Heat on. And we're just gonna get some color on the beef. I sliced the beef in half just so it's easier to manage and to eat. And we're not gonna cook this all the way, just so it's slightly browned. It is a little clumped together because the beef is frozen, but we'll manage. Okay, so here's a little history about Hayashi rice. The origin of this dish isn't really defined. There are multiple theories on how this dish started, but the most popular theory is that when people came over to Japan from England and America, they brought hashed beef with them. Japanese people kind of took that and made it a little bit more palatable for themselves. Hashed beef to Hayashi rice. It kind of sounds similar, right? There's also another theory that says this dish was started by someone named Hayashi, which is a common surname in Japan, but I feel like all the sources that I saw online kind of refuted this. And I feel like the hashed beef theory makes a little bit more sense. I'm gonna add a little bit more beef. So yeah, we'll actually do about a pound. So let's get this additional beef browned on one side. Some of the beef is actually cooked, so I'm gonna remove them. But ideally, you put all the beef in at once, so that it all cooks evenly. And I was cooking at medium heat. And we're gonna turn this down. I'm gonna let this cool for a bit. I'm gonna get some of this oil out. Ooh, look at all that rendered beef fat. It smells so good. Into that same pan, we're gonna add the onions. And we're gonna keep the heat on medium-low. The objective here is to cook the onions till they're slightly translucent and not completely broken down. And like I said before, onions are a pretty important part of this dish, so I wanna maintain the texture. Let's get them coated in all the beef fat. There's about 2 main types of Hayashi rice in Japan. The first one is demi-glace based, and the second one is tomato based. The tomato based version is popular than the demi-glace version. And if I had to guess, it's probably because it's sweeter and less rich. And Japanese cuisine tends to be sweet, right? Think of like teriyaki and eel sauce. And I don't know, I'm kind of blinking right now. Yeah, trust me, Japanese food is kind of sweet. So yes, a sweeter Hayashi rice probably is favored by Japanese people, and kids probably enjoy it more. You know, I think everyone knows what Japanese curry is. Like, it's almost ubiquitous in culture, right? And if you ask most people, they've tasted Japanese curry. But Hayashi rice is like the underdog rival of curry. I'm gonna talk baseball here, but if Japanese curry is like the Dodgers or the Yankees, I think Hayashi rice is like the Blue Jays, at least as of 2026 and 2025. The Yankees and the Dodgers, they got the fame, they got the reputation. They're the face of baseball, right? Like curry is the face of Japanese cuisine. But Hayashi rice, underrated, not as much on the radar, but still talented, still good. Maybe even good enough to make the World Series. For those who don't follow baseball, I'm sorry, that probably made no sense, but Hayashi rice is just as good as curry, just different contexts, you know? Sometimes I'm feeling curry, sometimes I'm feeling Hayashi. By cooking the onions slowly, I want to draw out the natural sweetness that's in them. Once the onions are looking translucent and they're looking nice, we're gonna add the mushrooms. Let's do a pinch of salt here. Oh, there's the rice. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but you probably want some freshly cooked rice to have the Hayashi on top of. I guess if you just want the gravy, then go for it. I prefer it with rice. You know, I was reviewing some of the footage and all the videos that I've made recently, and I realized that I am way too formal, and I'm like too robotic in like how I cook. This is my matcha latte recipe. It's one that I use on an everyday basis. That's not who I am. I just get nervous in front of the camera. I'm trying to learn how to be a little bit more fluid and a little bit more dynamic. That's something I am gonna keep in mind as I continue to make these kinds of videos. Now we're gonna add the garlic. We're adding the garlic later so that the garlic doesn't burn, and some of that garlic flavor is gonna come through in the final product. Final product? Am I the McDonald's CEO? I'm at the final dish. I went to the store and I told the guy that I needed something to drink. I was kind of embarrassed that I was gonna use this in cooking, but he let me taste a bunch of different stuff. I was trying a Pinot and I was trying a Cab Sav, and I think a Cab Sav is gonna be a better pairing for this kind of thing because I'm adding the wine in there to give it like a richness. And I think a Cab Sav is gonna offer a little bit more of that body than a Pinot. But honestly, I don't think it's gonna matter that much. All right, now that the mushrooms and garlic are cooked, we're gonna add back the beef. And then to this, we're gonna add some water. We're gonna add about 200 milliliters of water. Let's actually do about 300 milliliters of water. And we're gonna do about 100 milliliters of red wine. So in total, there's about 400 milliliters of liquid in this pan. Now to this, we're gonna add a dash of soy sauce. Maybe about a tablespoon. And this is gonna add, number one, sweetness and a little bit of richness as well. Now we're gonna let this simmer. It doesn't need to simmer as long as curry does because you don't have potatoes or carrots in there. And all this stuff that's in here is pretty much, you know, cooked. But we're just gonna bring this up to a simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. Let's actually give this a taste. Good, it's sweet. Paso Robles, Austin Cab Sav, I recommend. All right, I'm actually gonna add about 200 milliliters more of water. I don't want the liquid to all evaporate. So then that brings me to 500 milliliters of water and 100 milliliters of red wine. That's been going for about 10 minutes now. I'm gonna give it a taste and make sure all the alcohol has evaporated. It doesn't taste alcoholic anymore. So now we're gonna turn off the heat and we're gonna add half a box of the Hayashi rice blocks. Like we do with curry, we're gonna add one block at a time, making sure it's fully dissolved before we add the next one. If you're looking short on water at this point, feel free to add more. You don't want your Hayashi to be too runny, but you also don't want it to be too thick. There you go, it's already smelling great. Number two, it's easy to lose these in the pan, so make sure you keep track of it. And yeah, I'm looking short on water again, so I'm gonna add another 100 mils. This is gonna bring the temperature down, but it's okay. At this point, if it's too runny, it's okay. There's actually some flour in this block that's actually gonna thicken as we reheat. And I don't need to dive into the food science, but basically as starch is heated, they swell and they create this kind of a gel, which gives it that thick texture that you find in curry or Hayashi rice, or even like Chinese stir fries. Like some Chinese stir fries add like a cornstarch slurry and then you heat that and it's like the same principle. Yep, nice and rich. All right, let's turn the heat back on. Because we added that water, the temperature has dropped, so we gotta bring that back up. I'm actually so hungry. Also, I like making multiple servings of this. This is for 4 servings. But like curry, this holds really well in the freezer. Okay, I don't know if you can tell. I need a close up here. The runny gravy is now thickening ever so slightly. Just the way it moves in the pan, the viscosity has increased. Sorry, that's too technical. You know it's thickened. You know it's been thickening. Incredible. Just a couple more minutes. As I slide this across the bottom of this pan, you see a little trail, and that's when you know it's thickening. I'm satisfied with the texture, or I'm satisfied with the thickness, so I'm gonna turn the heat off. And to finish it off, we're gonna add about a tablespoon of butter, and then we're gonna taste. I like adding the butter at the very end because butter can separate if you add it towards the beginning, and I just want that hint of fattiness and richness at the end. It's actually giving the entire thing a nice glisten. We're good. To this rice, we're gonna add the hayashi. I need better parsley. That's it. The arch rival of Japanese curry, hayashi rice. Yes. Tastes like my childhood, but even better. The red wine gives it like the richness, kind of takes it away from Japanese food, but it's still got the base flavor of this beef gravy. And the beef is shining, the onions are shining, and the mushrooms are a nice complement. And the onions, they still have a bite to them, but when you bite into it, you get that hit of sweetness. And this dish overall, it's balanced and it's rich, but it's not gonna leave you feeling like a balloon after. The red wine really comes through. It takes it from like a dish that you'd make at home to something that you could get at a restaurant. And that knob of butter at the end, it gives it like a nice mellowness that really rounds out the whole eating experience. This feels premium. Like I could make this for a dinner party and I think people would be satisfied. All right, that was good. But now you have all this hayashi left over. What do you do with it? You could just, you know, save it and reheat it for lunch tomorrow. But what I like doing is putting it on top of omurice. And you ever see like that video of the dude in Japan putting an omelet on top of some rice and then slicing it and it just like falls apart? So that's omurice or omurice. And you can put the leftover hayashi on top of that as a sauce. Common sauces for omurice are demi-glace or ketchup. This is kind of similar to both, right? So when I was growing up, I did a lot of that. So yeah, that's how you make hayashi rice, Japanese curry's rival. I think it's as good, if not better, in certain occasions, especially when you juzz it up like I did. The red wine really elevates it. If you made this growing up, let me know what you put in it. I've heard of honey, actually I don't know, I've only heard of honey. I also made this from the roux blocks, but you can also make it with just like canned tomatoes, which I've never done personally, but I am down to try it. So maybe I'll do that in the future. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and I'll catch you later, and everybody eats.